Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, welcome to Between the Corners.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of Between the Corners. I'm your host, Josue.
And I'm your co-host, Robert.
And today we are going to be focusing mainly on boxing. We had a great boxing event that happened just yesterday, Saturday, the 12th of October to be exact. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Robert, I'll let you take the lead on this one since you had last week off. Go ahead and get us started.
Thank you, Josh. I'll start with saying it was a great fight. We saw a very great fight between two great warriors in Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. We saw both men do what they do best, right? We saw Beterbiev try to use his power. We saw Bivol use his movement, his boxing IQ. I'll kind of cut straight to the chase. We'll get into the details in a minute, but I do think it was a robbery. I think, Bivol, with all that said, Bivol did what he did, in my opinion, better than Beterbiev. Beterbiev did have his moments. He did hit Bivol several times where it got me kind of nervous. I didn't really have a favorite per se. I had said Bivol was going to outbox Beterbiev, but I had said it was a 50-50 fight. I think both fighters are great fighters, regardless of who won. I just wish that the decision actually correctly represented what happened.
Now, whenever you say robbery, because I know a lot of people have a different definition of robbery. A lot of people, when they think of a robbery, it's like Timothy Bradley versus Pacquiao. It was so clear that Pacquiao won. Like, this one was, I feel like it was a little bit closer. I had Bivol winning as well, because there was some close rounds that I thought Bivol, took those rounds. But like I said, they were close rounds. So whenever robbery wise, like, do you feel like it was that bad? Like Bivol, was that far ahead?
In my opinion, yes. I know that, I've seen online, a lot of people think it was a close fight. I could see that argument. It was somewhat close. I didn't see it as close as a lot of people did. I think Bivol boxed masterfully. And I think, in my opinion, it was 8-4. 8 rounds to 4, which is the exact opposite of what I forgot what the judge's name is, had scored it 8-4 in Beterbiev's favor. I honestly do not know how they saw that. He scored rounds 3-7 off for Beterbiev, which that's just impossible to me. Like, I could see some maybe somewhat close where, in my opinion, Beterbiev did better than he did the previous round, but Bivol was still outboxing him. I also think, you touched on Tim Bradley. Definitely not at that level. Tim Bradley versus Pacquiao 1 was a complete robbery, which kind of leads to another point, right? I know Tim Bradley had his thoughts throughout the fight early on. Horribly called fight. He was basically saying, Bivol needs to do this. Bivol is not doing this. When in fact, Bivol was doing what he had to do to win the fight. He did what he was doing best. It's something that's typical of Tim Bradley. I know early on when we first started this podcast, we talked about, some commentators that probably shouldn't be commentators. I think that's number one on the list. Yeah, Tim Bradley is probably the worst commentator, in my opinion. He'll start saying one thing, and I'm not, obviously I'm not a boxer. A lot of people get hung up on the fact, that he was a boxer. And they'll say, well, how are you going to say that when he was a boxer? Very easy. If he actually thought he won that first fight versus Pacquiao, he's not credible. I mean, he loses all credibility just with that. Secondly, just because you're a boxer doesn't mean that you're calling it 100%. We've seen so many fights where, he's saying it's going one way and it's completely the opposite of what we're actually seeing. He picks one fighter at the very beginning, starts going with them. There's times where you could tell he doesn't really have a favorite, but there are times where it's very obvious he's going for one fighter and doesn't call the fight how it's really happening. And you're like, what? For example, Bivol early on was outboxing him. He would throw 3-4 punch combinations. Beterbiev would throw one punch that maybe somewhat glanced Bivol. And you see, that's why Beterbiev is hitting Bivol. And it was like, what fight are you watching?
Yeah, and then after the fight as well, one of the comments that he made was like, oh, this didn't live up to the expectations. In my head, like this was one of the things I was expecting. It was either going to be like this, and Bivol was going to win, like he was going to outbox Beterbiev, or Beterbiev was going to knock him out. I saw, one of those things happening, and I feel like I did see Bivol outbox and win the fight. Obviously, he didn't get the W, but I felt like I saw that. So for Timothy Bradley to say, like, oh, it's not what it didn't live up to expectations. Well, what were you expecting? Have you not watched these guys fight at all? Because this was one of the expectations. And yeah, just like you said, a lot of the fights that we watched, just hearing his voice annoys me because half of the stuff that comes out of his mouth doesn't make sense or it shows favoritism. And as an announcer, I get it. You might, you're a human being. You might have a favor and all that, but don't make it so obvious.
Yep.
And it just, like you said, he loses all credibility because he still thinks that he won that stupid fight with Pacquiao. Nobody on God's green earth thinks he won that fight except for him. And actually, I feel like he knows he lost it, but his pride isn't going to let him admit it.
Yeah, and I think that's it makes me even question ESPN's decision to even have him as a commentator in there. Given that loss, I think that's kind of a black eye for boxing. Obviously, that's in the past, but I'll kind of move on from that.
Let's go back to the fighters and who should be getting the spotlight.
Yes, and this is nothing against Beterbiev either. Beterbiev tried to do what he does best. Unfortunately, in my eyes, he wasn't able to do his best against Bivol. I had said it, Bivol was just a good boxer, but again, it was a 50-50 fight for me early on. I think Bivol took control, was able to nullify, for the most part, nullify Beterbiev's power. He wasn't able to completely nullify it from the standpoint of, he got hit. He got hit several times, never cleanly. We saw his face. He even admitted when he got hit on the gloves. Beterbiev's power is just on a different level to the fact that he hurt the guy by hitting the gloves. I think he may have also taken a page out of Canelo's book where Canelo was hitting Bivol around the arms, and he was doing the same thing to Bivol. But I still didn't think it was enough for him to win the fight. I hope they do get a rematch and probably somewhere else, right? I think there were other factors that I won't talk about that I also read up online that could have some credibility, but again, that's just more hearsay. But I do think that it was in my opinion, it was a robbery. It was a robbery. It wasn't as close as people are making it out to be. I know that they'll probably look at the punch stats and say, well, look at the punch stats. It's not how it works, right? This is scored on a round by round basis. There were several rounds that Beterbiev just landed that many. There were like rounds where Bivol seemed to either be tired out or just took the round off to maybe get his composure and his focus. But those seem to be the ones where Beterbiev landed the majority of his punches. Aside from that, Bivol, in my opinion, boxed great. I mean, he did a great job. But yeah.
Oh, and one of the things that I liked about Bivol, that he stayed busy. He was, but then he stood in front of him several times and was punching him, and landed some good ones. He actually stunned, and hurt. I feel like he hurt Beterbiev. He did mess up though. He did go in for the kill, I guess. But that's what Beterbiev does. Like you mentioned, in some of his other fights, he gets hurt and then boom, he knocks him out. Luckily, Bivol has a good chin.
He definitely has a good chin. I mean, again, he has a good chin. He also has good movement to the point that, yes, he made a mistake during that time, but he was able to move out of the way, at least partially, so he didn't get caught clean. But to your point, what we talked about off camera, he should have already learned from all the other fights that Beterbiev is more dangerous when he's hurt. By far, it wakes up the monster in him. He had him hurt. I forget which round it was, but when he had him hurt, it seemed like that's when Beterbiev just went on the attack and hurt Bivol. Another round that had me nervous with excitement. Like, is this something that's going to happen? Like, if Beterbiev knocked out Bivol, hey, that would have been great to see too. But overall, I agree with you said. This was a great fight, regardless of what Tim says. I think it was a phenomenal fight that showed two great warriors, a boxer versus a boxer puncher. I think both of those are still the top two in the division. Would love to see them run it back.
Same.
I can't think of anybody else in that weight class that really has a chance against them. And outside of that weight class, I'm going to move on to a very funny comment that I saw on social media where Mr. Berlanga thinks that he would knock out Beterbiev because Beterbiev has no head movement.
Wait, but was Berlanga talking about Artur, or was he talking about somebody writing a book?
That's right. He did say author. But I think most people know who he was talking about.
Yeah.
But that's funny. I think absolutely zero chance. I mean,
no, he doesn't.
Let me put it this way. Berlanga had a better chance against Canelo than he does against Beterbiev. Styles make fights. Berlanga says, that Beterbiev didn't have any head movement, no ring IQ. Neither does he. He doesn't have really good ring IQ. His head movement is not the best. He caught a Canelo that is kind of somewhat on the downhill of his career. I wouldn't say that he's washed up. He's not, but he's definitely not at his peak. And, now Berlanga, after we gave him so much credit, great. I've already seen 2 off-the-wall comments from him that make me question, was this fight really good for him? Did it show him, things that maybe he could improve on? Or did it boost his ego? And unfortunately, I think the latter is probably the most accurate. I say that because he first said that he could take on AJ after AJ got knocked out.
He could definitely take on Anthony Joshua.
Oh, yeah, he could take him out, maybe to dinner. But aside from that, he'd get knocked out against both Beterbiev and AJ. He has zero chance. I mean, people will say, okay, he has a puncher's chance. Sure, we'll give him a 1% chance. That's it.
Yeah.
But Beterbiev has already been hit by
bigger guys and
bigger guys.
punchers.
Same thing with AJ. Yes, AJ got knocked out by a heavyweight. Berlanga, please.
I feel like he's just trolling, though.
I hope so. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. I hope he's trolling.
About the Anthony Joshua one. About the Beterbiev one, probably not, because he's close to that weight.
Yeah. Either way, I hope he's trolling on both. He's. Like, I gave him credit because he did better than expected against Canelo. He still didn't win. He hasn't won against any notable name, much less a champion in the 168-pound division. And he wants to talk about beating arguably, one of the best at 175. Given yesterday's bad decision, he's considered the best, the undisputed champ at 175. I disagree with that. But even if he was second, regardless, Berlanga, you're not beating Bivol. You're not going to beat Beterbiev. You're not going to beat any notable fighter at 175. You need to stick to trying to improve at 168. Look, man, I think he did, again, much better than expected versus Canelo, but he needs to build on that at 168. Now, if weight is an issue for him, I could understand that. That didn't seem to be the case. He seems to be comfortable at 168. Like, improve from your experience. Right now, you would get absolutely murdered by Beterbiev.
Yep, he definitely would. So, yeah, he needs, like we said, I hope he's trolling about him, about both of those. And, yeah, as we've seen online, a lot of people are mixed on this. Some people are saying, yes, he did win. That Beterbiev did get the win, and then some people are saying that it was a robbery. Honestly, in my end, like we said before, I had Bivol winning. He had Bivol winning for sure. I think the closest card, as far as the judges' card that we saw, to my card at least, was the one that was tied.
The draw.
Yeah, the draw. Other than that, the other 2 judges, I don't know what they were seeing on some of these rounds, because they had some of the rounds that I knew for sure that Bivol won. They had it for Beterbiev. So that was a little odd. But let us know what y'all think on the comment section below. Who do you think won the fight? In your eyes, of course. We already know who actually got the win. But yeah, let me know who you think won the fight. And if you did score the rounds, what rounds did you give to Bivol? What rounds did you give to Beterbiev? Or how many did you give to each? All right. So let's go ahead and move it along. This coming week, we do have some boxing actually tomorrow. And I'll let you talk about what's happening tomorrow because we're going to have to wake up early to watch this one.
Yeah, I think this one is at, was it 4 a.m. Eastern time?
Yep.
4 a.m. Eastern time is when the card
Japan,
starts.
right?
Yes, it's a card in Japan. Junto Nakatani versus Pech Sor Chitpatan, I think is his name. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm not sure. It's Japan versus Thailand. I'll start by saying Nakatani, can't really say anything bad about him. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. He's definitely improved every single fight. He's one of the top fighters, pound for pound, I think, right now. We're getting there at least. I mean, I think we haven't seen the best of him yet. Pech Sor Chitapan, I think he's only had one loss out of 77 fights, so he's 76-1 with 53 knockouts.
76 fights?
76 fights. The lone loss coming to Naoya Inoue's brother several years ago, actually, I think back in 2018. Since then, he's won 28 fights, 21 of those by stoppage, 7 by decision.
By that many fights, though, who is he fighting? Like, those are some of his. He's fighting his neighbors, and they're counting it on the boxing reg. He's fighting, people at the store, I guess.
I think this is why when you go to BoxRec, and not to say that BoxRec is 100% credible either, but every one of his fights, except for the one against Inoue, has a question mark by it. Every one of his fights has been in Thailand, so we don't know too much about this guy as far as even the level of opponents that he's faced.
Mm-hmm.
He lost against Inoue's brother Inoue, but I think it does speak for itself that he likes to stay busy. He's fought, even if they are what people call, tomato cans, cab drivers, whatever. He stayed busy. I don't know how much of a fight he's going to put up against Nakatani, who's the best, I think, at that weight. I think, to be honest, I think this is going to be Nakatani is going to probably put a beating on Pech. I would say, just based on Nakatani's record, I'm going to say, I'm not going to give the exact round prediction this time. I think it'll be before 7. Within 7 rounds, Nakatani takes him out.
Yeah, I feel like with Pech, that's kind of a depending on his fighting style. If he's not like really well known, his fighting and all that, and he's fighting this much and keeping busy, and he has nothing to lose and going into this fight, hey man, leave it all out there. This is going to be like one of the biggest names that you can, earn a name for yourself after getting this win, because you already lost to that one Inoue. Is that how you pronounce his name? Inoue.
Takuma
Inoue. So yeah, I mean, hey, go in there and fight your heart out. I always love an underdog story. So if he gets the win, that'll be awesome. But from the looks of it, I don't think he's
getting that. And I don't know if I incorrectly said that he got stopped by Inoue, and he did not. That was actually unanimous decision against Inoue.
Okay.
About almost 6 years ago. But yeah, I don't really see this going the distance, and I don't see Pech being able to upset Nakatani.
There you go.
Kind of looking past that, I know people are probably gonna say, I'm probably thinking too far ahead, but one fight that I would like to see is Nakatani versus Inoue. But Naoya Inoue. I think that would be a tremendous fight. Obviously, Inoue is at a higher weight class. Not by much. I think Nakatani can eventually move up and make that fight happen. I'll just leave it at that. I think it would be a great fight. I don't see Nakatani beating him. I just think it would be a great fight. We'll see how he looks against Pech Sor. May not tell us much given that Pech is not really, at the level or
Pech,
even
please.
Not even close to Naoya Inoue, but get to let us see some of the skill sets the skill set that Nakatani possesses.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a good night for both of them. And any other fights happening this week? Maybe we'll go meet up Tim Bradley or something. Have some rounds with him.
At the end of the day, he was still a boxer, so I'll give him this.
I wouldn't box him, but we'd fight. We would fight. We wouldn't box.
He has a good chin. I mean, he didn't get knocked out by Pacquiao. But yeah, I think that, to me, That's where I'll leave it. I think that's going to be a very entertaining fight for me, Nakatani. So I will be awake to watch that. Now, the card starts at 4 a.m. Eastern time. The ring walk for Nakatani versus Pet probably won't start till around 7 Eastern time, so around 6 Central. But, I'll definitely be watching.
Good. I'll try to wake up early and watch that with you.
You won't be awake.
I'll be awake.
But you'll get to catch it later.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that is pretty much it that we're going to be talking about. Not too much happening in the UFC. We had some, UFC fight night this weekend and then next weekend as well. Really just waiting on UFC 308 to happen, which is 2 weeks from now. We'll come up with another episode talking about that next week. So thank you all for watching this episode. Like I always say, please follow us on all of our social media platforms, on Instagram and on TikTok. It's going to be Between the Corners Pod. And then on X, it is Between Corners. And of course, like I always say as well, please comment down below. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts on the fights, the upcoming fights, anything that you may disagree with. Let us know why.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Muchas gracias. Obrigado.
Gracias. Obrigado. What else? That's it. Merci.
Oh, yeah, merci.
Merci beaucoup. Wait, there was another one you said last time. The Italian one. Let us know what let us know what it was.
Grazie.
Grazie. There you go. Never mind. Don't let us know. We already know. All right, guys. Hopefully you have a great rest of your morning, evening, noon, whatever it is. Pasa afuera.